A few years ago, Samuel L. Jackson decided that Mace Windu was probably still alive. When George Lucas heard about this, his response was, "Yeah, that sounds plausible." But since then, no one has really talked about it, and so today I'm going to go over some of my ideas for where Mace Windu might be post-Revenge of the Sith. A lot of recent Star Wars stories have been trying to emulate the original trilogy and getting kind of mixed reviews, but The Mandalorian stood above the rest by taking inspiration not from Star Wars itself, but from the same kinds of classic samurai and western films that the original Star Wars did. If we take their lead, but lean more towards samurai stuff as opposed to western stuff, because Mace Windu's a Jedi, then we're setting the foundation for a lot of great stories while also staying true to what Star Wars really is. Now, to get into the meat of it, the last time we saw Mace Windu, he was flying off the edge of a building without an arm. And that's fine, totally survivable to a Jedi, But I think there is where we pick things up. Not in terms of the story, we can jump forward a couple years, but in terms of the setting, it should be in the lower levels of Coruscant. And without the Jedi Order, Mace Windu has nothing. And I think that's an interesting thing to explore. We've never seen a Star Wars character lose an arm and then not be able to afford to replace it. And I think a one-armed Mace Windu, pretty badass. Maybe that's just me. I also think he should be horrifically scarred on one part of his face, Prince Zuko style, and maybe blind in one eye, because that's also pretty badass. The final idea I have for Mace Windu aesthetically is that he should not have his lightsaber. The odds of him finding it after it was tossed in a random direction on Coruscant of all places are pretty slim, and the odds of him wanting to use it on Imperial occupied Coruscant of all places are pretty slim. So let's give him a bow staff. Now, this would be a disheveled, broken man who lost everything he ever had and everything he ever believed in. So, odds are he just wants to be left alone. But Mace Windu was a Jedi, and he has a very strong sense of justice. So he might find himself regularly helping the little people on the lower levels of Coruscant. And then maybe we have the workings of our first Star Wars vigilante story? Which, as a comic book fan, I think is pretty cool. Just as an example, you say Mace Windu has a favorite bar he likes to frequent, and you say that bar is being extorted by the Hutt cartels or the Crimson Dawn or whoever, anyone. There's 4 or 5 major crime syndicates if you're sick of the Hutts. And from there, it's a pretty cut and dry story. You got a hobo samurai who's just trying to save the bar that he likes to frequent. You tell stories like that. I think it'd be pretty good. Stick that shit on Disney Plus. I'm sure Samuel L. Jackson would be willing to do it. I mean, it was his idea that he was still alive. And then, the final episode could be Vader showing up and killing him. Limited series, 8 episodes. Vader shows up at the end. We get a badass Vader versus Windu scene. And even just the conversation in that scene would be so awesome. Because the last time these two characters were together, the fate of the galaxy was decided. And you can bet your ass they're going to talk about it. So yeah, that's pretty much my idea. You can fit a lot of other stories in those 8 to 10 episodes, however you want to do it. You could build up to the Vader stuff at the end by having some Inquisitors show up, Then maybe for that final episode, Mace Windu has the Inquisitor's lightsaber, but with white crystals because he's purified them. However you want to do it, really. My point is just that it could work, and it could work pretty dang well. Now, can you please get out of the bathroom? It's pretty obvious I'm trying to take a shower. God.